I've honestly put my hair through so much, I've damaged it so much, and it was just like a really painful learning experience. So learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to go through that yourself. My hair has gone through a lot, and I'll get into that in a bit, but basically I've had to learn the hard way how to repair my hair. So first I'm going to give you my best tips for repairing damaged hair, and then I'll take you through my personal hair journey just for some context in case you're interested. Here are some things that will help you preserve the integrity of your hair so that you can have as full and as healthy of hair as possible, even if you're going blonde and your hair is naturally black, like me. Don't ever dye your hair dark if you ever want to go light again. Maybe toner and gloss is okay, and you would do that by going into a salon and get it professionally done. I naturally have pretty full hair, but I bleached it twice, dyed it dark, and then bleached it out of it again to try to lift it, and that process was really damaging to my hair, not just this time but every single time. So I definitely have a lot less hair than I used to. I mean, I'll insert some footage, but if you look back to like the first few times I went blonde before I had dyed it dark with box dye, I still had pretty full blonde hair because I'd only bleached it twice, and my hair could withstand like 2 bleachings just fine. But then once I dyed it dark and then I had to take it light again, like just the process of lifting that dye out really damaged my hair. So now I have a lot less, but it's fine. I mean, I would say that I really regret dyeing my hair dark, but I think that it was a really important learning lesson, and I will never take my blonde hair for granted again. I will never do that again, trying to go from blonde to black hair to blonde again. I'm gonna pick a color and stick to it. But yeah, I made this mistake with semi-permanent box color. I thought it would be easy to lift because it's semi-permanent color, which is supposed to lift after like 6 washes, but the issue was that my hair wasn't taking in that dark dye because I was really blonde, and it wasn't taking that dark dye evenly, and also it was like fading really quickly. And so I would continually re-dye my hair with semi-permanent color like 6 or 7 times, to the point where basically semi-permanent color had started to behave more like permanent color. And because my hair had already been bleached twice, it was really porous. It was just soaking up all that color that I put into it, and it was like clinging onto it. So it became really difficult for me to lift any of that color out once I did want to go light again, which I did like the very next summer. So yeah, it was just a painful learning experience, I guess. But I did it so that you don't have to. Take advice from me. If you're blonde and you're thinking about dyeing your hair dark, just make sure that that is what you want, because if you dye your hair dark, even with semi-permanent color, unless you go in for a gloss, just know that you're gonna be pretty committed to that color until it grows out, because your hair is just never gonna lighten the same way again. I also thought that dry hair just meant that your hair needed more moisture, so I would do like deep conditioning masks and hair oils to try to get more moisture into my hair. And that is true, but that's only part of the story. Hair is made of protein, and the process of bleaching it over and over again, it breaks down these proteins, and replenishing moisture isn't going to repair those bonds, which is why recently you've been seeing all these products come out like Olaplex and K18 that are all about targeting those broken bonds. If you want to learn more about Olaplex versus K18, I have a whole separate video on that. I'll link it here somewhere, I don't know. Dry cuts. I love these. I recently discovered them and I'm obsessed. So I just got back from getting a dry haircut. So basically I didn't get my hair washed and blow dried after. And I actually like this process a lot more. It saves you a lot of time. It's also less expensive. And I honestly feel like I never really liked when stylists would like blow dry my hair and style it after. For whatever reason, I just like the way my hair dries naturally, and so I don't really like it blow dried. And I honestly hated the process of getting my hair blow dried and done after a haircut because it just felt really unnecessary, and it also felt like I was inflicting more damage onto my hair, and it felt like a waste of time and money. And like damage. This one might be counterintuitive, but overusing hair oils is also not great for your hair. A lot of them contain silicone, which just makes your hair lie flat and feel smooth and silky, but it actually doesn't do anything good for your hair. It just makes it seem like it's healthier, but it's not. And also it actually makes it a lot harder for actually reparative products to penetrate your hair shaft. So if I put like a hair oil in my hair that had silicone in it, it would be actually really difficult for me to use K18 and for the K18 to actually get into my hair where it needs to be, because it's coated with silicone, which is why it's recommended that you use a clarifying shampoo before you use K18 or Olaplex, because you want to strip your hair completely so that the product can penetrate completely. If you think about like skincare, you need to wash your face before you apply your skincare. It's the same kind of thing. You need to wash off all your makeup. For your hair, you need to wash off all the hair oils and all the silicones and everything that's in your hair, all the product that's in your hair, so that the K18 can fully penetrate it. Go into the salon with some pictures of the color that you're looking for so the stylist can know what you're trying to achieve, and having a visual really helps. I personally love Pinterest for this. I just like pin a bunch of colors that I like, and then you can talk to your stylist and see what's realistic and feasible for you and your current hair condition. One thing I learned from getting my hair done with David is to use a low volume developer and leave it in for a longer period of time. It seems counterintuitive, but actually using lower volume but for a longer period of time to process is actually gentler for your hair, rather than using like a really strong high volume developer to lift your hair for a short period of time. That's more damaging actually. There are also things that you can do when you're sleeping. So first, you can try sleeping on silk or satin pillowcases. That reduces friction on your hair when you're sleeping. Another way to do that is to put your hair in braids. That also minimizes the amount of contact that your hair makes with the fabric and reduces friction on your hair. Another thing you can do while sleeping if you like curly hair is to use heatless curls. I'm sure you've probably seen how these work. You put it on your head and then you curl your hair around it and you sleep like that. They do create decent curls. My main complaint is that it's kind of uncomfortable to sleep with, so I feel like it kind of ruins my sleep, which I really don't like. You could also curl your hair using a Dyson instead of a traditional curling iron or a flat iron. It's going to be a little bit more damage than no heat at all, but it's better than a traditional curling wand. If you're curious about the Dyson, I have a separate video on it as well. I'll try to link it here. Using purple shampoo will really help you counteract those brassy colors that you have in your hair. I used to think that it doesn't really make a difference, but it actually really does. It's the best at-home solution for brassy hair, short of going into the salon for a tone or a gloss. I'm currently using the Eva NYC. They have a shampoo and a conditioner. They also have a leave-in cream. I've used some other purple shampoo brands before too. I don't know if the brand matters that much, but just make sure that you get one. The reason why purple shampoo works is, if you think about the color wheel, purple is opposite of yellow and orange, so it really helps to counteract those tones. I made so many mistakes trying to go blonde, so I'm going to share those with you so that you don't have to go through the same experiences I did. Okay, so I'm going to go get my hair done today. We're going to try to take it as light as possible, but the end result is TBD because I have some dye in my hair right now. I was blonde before, like almost a year ago. Anyway, I wanted to go dark for the winter, and so I put in some semi-permanent color, which is only supposed to last up to like 28 washes. But I re-dyed it a bunch of times because I was really blonde, and so it just like would wash out the first few times, and then it also faded unevenly, so I had to keep dyeing it to make sure that it was covered evenly and that it stayed dark and that it didn't fade. So I probably dyed it like 5 or 6 times, and so now it's really dark and the color has stuck around for like quite a long time now. So I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous to see if all of the color actually will lighten, because it's acting like permanent dye at this point. It's not really coming out. I've washed my hair. The last time I put dye in my hair was probably maybe like January, February. So it's been around 3 months or so, I think. And the color hasn't really faded too much. And I think part of the reason why is because my hair, when I bleached it, I only bleached it twice, but when you bleach hair, the cuticles open up, and so my hair was very porous and like basically dry and thirsty, and so it was gonna absorb any color that I put on it. And since I kept dyeing it with color, even though it was semi-permanent color, it just soaked up all that color. So it's like really saturated with pigment, which is why I think the semi-permanent dye right now is kind of acting like more permanent color than semi-permanent color. So we'll see. So at this point, it's been around 4 months since I last got my hair done, and I'm gonna go back in tomorrow to get it lightened again. I'm going somewhere new. I usually go to David. He owns DV Hair Studio in Flushing, and I've honestly really loved going to him. He's done an amazing job. I love the color every time he does it. It comes out like a very neutral blonde, not like brassy, not overly orange or yellow or warm, which has happened with me before in the past. He lightens it to like a really pretty kind of neutral blonde, I would say. It's not too ashy. In the beginning, it's pretty ashy, but he tones it a lot, and then as it fades, it becomes like this really pretty neutral blonde. But tomorrow I'm going to Smoke and Wheel. I'm going to a different salon, different stylist. Never seen her before. I'm doing it as part of a brand collab with K18, but I'm excited to see kind of what she does differently, because at this point I've seen 3 different people now, so she'll be my 4th, and everyone kind of has a different style of lightening hair. But basically, I bleached my hair for the first time like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it got me to kind of like this dirty blonde. I decided to lighten it again, and that got me to this much lighter blonde that was still kind of yellow. And at that point, I bleached my hair twice, and it still seemed really full and healthy. Then I had the bright idea to dye my hair dark, so I dyed it with semi-permanent dark brown hair dye like 5 or 6 times, because when I dyed my blonde hair with dark dye, it just like didn't always take evenly all over, so I had to dye it several times, and also it would like fade unevenly, so I redid it several times. First of all, using box dye is just always not a great idea if you plan on ever lightening it. But also the fact that I did it over and over again, even though it was semi-permanent color, it started to behave like permanent hair color, because I just kept on repeatedly putting it into my hair, and my hair was, even though it seemed full and healthy, it was honestly probably quite damaged and very porous, so it just soaked up any color that I put into it, and it just like latched onto that dark color and wouldn't let go. So when I tried to lighten my hair again, the following year, it had probably been like 4 or 5 months since the last time I dyed it dark, but I had a really hard time lightening it. David had a really hard time lightening it, and he had to leave the bleach on for longer than you normally would with virgin hair. He noticed that like my virgin hair was lifting better than the hair that had been dyed, so he needed to leave the bleach on the ends for longer so that it could lift that dark color, that box dye, which is notoriously difficult to lift, by the way, even semi-permanent, and that really damaged my hair. So I remember that time trying to go back light again after box dye was the most damaging session I've ever had. I remember watching him comb through my hair after, and there were just like clumps and clumps of hair that was falling out because it just had been bleached twice before already, but then also going through the process of trying to lift dark dye, my hair was just really damaged, and it just like melted off my head, and that was really sad. But David's amazing. He got me pretty light with my hair still intact. I mean, I lost a lot of hair, but like given the circumstances, he really did the best that anyone could, I think, in that situation. It was my bad idea to not only darken my hair, but also use box dye to do that. And honestly, even if I hadn't used box dye, it's really difficult to go from black to blonde to black to blonde all again and again, because just taking your hair that's like blonde and trying to darken it, it's gonna be really hard to lift that darkness out of the hair again. So it's just really not practical to go between black and blonde hair all the time. You really should stick to one and commit to one for a while. If you do want to go a little bit darker, if I were to do it all over again, I would have gone to a salon and asked for a toner, and they could just put in like a dark gloss, and that would definitely bring down the brightness of the blonde, and it would just mute the colors a little bit. But toner is not semi-permanent color, and going to a salon and getting it done right means that it will just be that much easier to lift it again. I went to so I just got back from Spoken Wheel with Colleen. This time it was a new salon for me. I'd never been there before. I can tell that she definitely, so whenever I would go see David, he would tone it like really ashy, to the point where like for really several washes after, I felt like it was too dark and too gray and too ashy. But it was definitely like much more of a neutral blonde once it did fade. I can tell right now this is a lot more warm toned. She did put a gloss on it to like tone it down a little bit, but it's definitely way more warm toned than I usually am with David. But I do really like the color. It's really light on the ends. She just went in and did highlights all over. So obviously my hair at the bottom that was already highlighted before got lighter, and then darker towards the roots. She also did like different layers of toner or gloss, and a darker toner gloss near the roots and then lighter towards the ends, because basically this allows for better grow out. So that is one thing that David never really did, is like when my hair would grow out, it would kind of all just grow out to be the same color, because he didn't tone it differently at the roots versus the ends. Whereas Colleen really wanted to go for like a faded kind of like gradient blonde, so that when my roots do grow out again, it'll be like more of a gradient ombre kind of highlight effect.